Hayden First Baptist was first organized on August the 8th, 1915 as Hayden Missionary Baptist Church. The church had a humble beginning with only 4 members. They first met in the Rockland Schoolhouse, which was located about 100 yards northwest of the railroad bridge over Highway 160. Then in November of 1916, the church minutes state that they found themselves locked out of the school building. The Farmers Union offered them their hall, and they continued to meet there until they completed the church building in May of 1919. That early church building was known as the Church on the Hill. Even though that building no longer stands, our understanding was that the rear of the building was rooted in the hillside, with the front of the building coming away from the hill supported by stacked rock columns. The underside of the church actually became a place where the children would play in the shade. The most dramatic event in the early life of the church was a revival held in August of 1935. The revival was a joint venture between the Baptist and the Methodist. It was led by our pastor, Reverend Judson Jones, and he was assisted by Reverend Edgar Jean. There were a total of 68 saved, and of those, 52 joined our church. Many of the families who are part of our church today began their connection with First Baptist Hayden as a result of this revival. This photo is of 6 men who were leaders in the church on the hill in 1938. In the front row you see John Hardwick, Franklin Milligan, and S.L. Bradley, and on the back row is Fred Boren, Carl Standridge, and Grady Reno. In 1944, a new church building was completed, and our church moved to what became known as Rock Church on Highway 160. Notice you can see the cornerstone on the left side, which is now framed in the hallway outside our present sanctuary. The church building ran parallel to the highway with the front entrance facing west. This original church building is still part of our present structure. You can see the rock on the outside of the front of our church. The sanctuary was located where our nursery is today. Throughout the 40s and 50s, the church continued to grow. Basement classrooms were added to the church in 1947. Our first recorded VBS was in 1953, and there were 60 students. VBS continues today as a vital part of our community outreach. Many children have been led to Christ through this ministry. In 1954, the church began Training Union, or what would now be known as discipleship training. In August of 1955, the church added air conditioning, and all God's people said amen. In 1956, the church began the process of building a pastorium on the land adjoining the church. The work was completed that year. That house stood in what is now our back parking lot. It was later sold and moved just a block away. In 1961, the church voted to build a 2-story addition to the back of the church. This addition would contain more classrooms. This area is where our present offices are located today. It was at this time that some of the classroom space in the downstairs of the church was converted into a fellowship hall. Fellowship has always been part of the lifeblood of this church. Here are a few clips of past fellowships. Look close and you might recognize a few people.
He wants to sell it and give the proceeds.
In January 1979, work began on a new auditorium for First Baptist. The new sanctuary was completed and dedicated on October 21st, 1979. This sanctuary is the one that we are worshiping in today. In 1989, a 2-story education wing was added. This building is still used for most of our adult and children's classes. The late 90s showed continued growth in our church. The church purchased the house next door in 1996 and created the youth complex. And then in 1998, there was a renovation on our church auditorium. It was enlarged and remodeled with the addition of the stained glass windows, as well as the addition of the front atrium and porch outside the church offices. Then in 2001, the church purchased the Reed House for future growth. That building is now being used as a part of our Operation 56 ministry to the 5th and 6th graders. Our church has always been about the business of knowing Jesus and making Him known. For those of us who are members, it is a privilege to be a part of an incredible history. Lives have been changed as a result of our presence in this community. To date, there have been 970 baptisms since the beginning of our great church. First Baptist Hayden is a place where lifelong commitments are formed. It's a place where families can grow. A place for fun and fellowship. It's about serving God and others. Loving other people. It's about a message worth sharing. It's about a future. Let's give God all the glory.